All right, what's up, guys? How we doing? So I just watched Snapchat, and I have to talk about this movie. I know it came out, I believe, in March, very limited release, I believe, and then it was released on Prime Video probably about a month ago. And I absolutely adored this movie. This is my type of movie. Any coming of age movie, really, is just always going to be right up my alley. So it's Nebraska City, 1991, and it's about just two best friends, AJ and Moose, played by Connor Sherry and Gabriel LaBelle. And it's basically just about them having the opportunity to run the local swimming pool Snapchat for the summer. They make a bid on it through city council. They get it, they clean it up, and they start to run it. And it becomes the perfect vehicle for them to learn what it means to kind of grow up, go from being that little kid to a teenager to kind of an adult, how to flirt with girls and deal with bullies, liking the same girl, I mean, I've been there plenty of times as a kid liking the same girl who is giving you both a lot of attention, it sucks, it's hard. And this movie is also written and directed by Adam Reimier. I'm not too familiar with him. And this is not a knock at all. This is not a negative whatsoever. I think it's more of a compliment. If you were to tell me that Richard Linklater wrote and directed this film, I would absolutely believe you. That's how much I fucking love this movie. Richard Linklater is a legend. He's kind of always been known as that dude who's perfected coming of age movies. I mean, this is very Dazed and Confused-esque, and I think Adam just puts his perfect spin on it, I learned later after watching it that I guess he is from Nebraska. He was born or grew up in the early 90s, and he kind of based this all on his life. And I think it's not ripping off anybody. He's just wanting to use this coming of age style to make his own movie and to pretty much tell his own story. So starting off with the positives for this movie, it's the two main characters, AJ and Moose. I mean, they are so awesome. I love them so much. Moose is played by Gabriel LaBelle, who was previously in The Fabelmans, Steven Spielberg's kind of biopic that he did, and he plays the young Steven Spielberg, and he's unrecognizable in this movie. And I also learned that he also is going to be in the new Saturday Night movie that just came out this weekend, and he plays like a 30-year-old dude, I guess, who's like kind of balding. Like I saw a still photo of him. Talk about range. I mean, this dude is such a good actor. And Connor Sherry, according to IMDb, he has no other credits. This is his first movie that he's ever done, which is appalling. It's so shocking. He is so good in this movie playing that shy kind of teenager, but at the same time, him and his friend are just so ambitious. They have all these ideas, I wish I was this fucking cool when I was 14. I swear to God. I mean, not only do they sneak off, cross state lines, and go bet on a dog race, or it's not a horse race, but it's some sort of dog race that they bet on. Fucking badass. They're always smoking cigarettes, they're trying to be super cool, which I mean, I still think they do look pretty cool, but they're betting. They make their own beer, which is fucking crazy. They have it in these like big old containers, and they're just brewing their own beer somehow and bottling it up and manufacturing it. And I mean, they said it tastes good, and so do other people in the movie. So, I mean, that's pretty fucking badass. And they just have all these ideas to create their own empire, basically. And I mean, it's a little dramatic. It's a little over the top because I don't think anybody is that fucking cool at that age. But I mean, these dudes are just, they're so sick, man. And their chemistry is just off the fucking charts, man. I swear to God, like, you immediately believe and buy into their friendship and their bond that they've had. It feels like they've known each other their whole fucking life. They're constantly talking about their ambitions and the businesses that they want to start and what they want to do. But at the same time, if they disagree, or, one of them's kind of being a pussy and not wanting to go forward, they start fighting. They're like brothers. They have this thing where they hit each other in the neck, even though they both have said that it's off limits to hit each other in the net, but they do it anyways. And it's just so believable, and it's so charming. And even with all the ups and downs that AJ and Moose go through throughout this movie as best friends, it's so realistic and it's so relatable, I think, to anybody of any age. We've all been 14 years old, starting to, you're a little bit past puberty, you're going to high school, and specifically, like I said, with liking the same girl, learning how to first flirt with girls, And when you and your best friend like the same girl, and at the same time, she's also reciprocating that feeling with giving both of you attention, usually one of you is always going to be like Moose. You're always going to be extroverted and outgoing and just always go for it. But then there's always going to be that friend like AJ who's kind of more shy and not really, he's kind of introverted, but he's still super fucking cool. And I've been in both positions throughout my life, specifically at that age. And being AJ, kind of watching this girl who you really liked and she likes you too, seeing her gravitate more towards somebody like Moose, it sucks, man. It is a shitty, shitty fucking feeling. Now, once they have their Snatch Shack up and fully running, ready for their first day, the pool's open, and, they have all their soda machines ready, their fridge, their hot dogs are ready, they got a microwave, everything is ready, the candy, they have their candy vendor, which is a fucking hilarious scene. Everything is ready to rock and roll. So they open up the cage and there's dozens and dozens of kids just waiting to buy their products, and it's go time, man. They're slinging candy, making hot dogs, pouring drinks. It's hectic. It's exhilarating. It's so much fun to watch with something so simple of just these 14-year-old kids just slinging snacks for these kids at this pool. It just says how much heart was put into this movie and how much effort and love was put into this simple concept of a movie. And they're also, as the day goes on, they're starting to count their money and everything, and the camera's panning back and forth between AJ and Moose, and every time they're making more money, Moose is like, 900, and then it goes back and he's like, 1100, and they're just making total bank, and it's just so awesome. And another big positive for this movie is Shane, who is played by Nick Robinson. And at first you kind of think that he pulls up in a truck and, you first kind of think he's AJ's older brother, but he ends up just being another neighborhood kid who they grew up with. He's, I think, probably 3 or 4 years older than AJ and Moose, because I believe he's a freshman in college. And he's like back for the summer. He's the one who runs the pool. He's like a lifeguard there. And he is phenomenal. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, he's just AJ and Moose, they look up to him, specifically AJ. I mean, he basically is that brother figure that AJ doesn't have, because he has a sister. I don't really know how old she is, but all we really get to know that is she wants to dance. She wants to be a cheerleader or whatever it is. We don't really get to know much about her. But Shane is just the absolute role model for these kids. I mean, I remember being that age as well. Back to being how relatable this movie is, of looking up to these 18-year-olds who, you've known for a while, but they're not a teenager or a kid anymore. They're in college. They're doing college stuff. They're rushing fraternities, and they're gone for however many years it is, and they're drinking, and they're actually having sex with girls and doing all this stuff and hooking up. And their relationship is just so perfect. It's so, once again, real. Everything in this movie is so real and authentic, and Shane is just that dude. I mean, he's that guy. He's so fucking cool. And, he's the only one who really has their back, AJ and Moose. He sees their ideas. He's tasted their beer. He knows how awesome they are for how young they are. And he's able to, because he's older, a little bit older, he's an adult in the parents' eyes. He's able to kind of charm and, have that pull of telling the parents, like, just give them some time. I know they're awesome. They're going through some stuff right now. They're going to get through it. And he even tells AJ this, like, listen, bro, like, you guys are fucking badass. Just give it some time. The parents, they just don't know it yet, and they're eventually going to find out. And the setting and vibe of this movie I also thought was perfect. Adding to that 90s aesthetic and everything that comes along with it, being in this Midwestern town, and how it's pretty small. There's not a lot of people. Everybody kind of knows each other. I thought that was really well portrayed, and you can tell that this really, Nebraska just in general, really means a lot to this director, Adam Reimers, and that it was really, really a passion project. I don't know for how long he's wanted to make this movie, but you can just tell that it really is very close to home for him, and I think that translates on the screen and in the writing, everything fantastically. But I'm also going to say this again, and I will probably say it over and over a couple more times throughout this. The nostalgia and the feeling that this movie gives me when watching it, when I'm thinking about it, when I'm talking about it right now is just unreal. I didn't grow up in the early 90s. I was born in 96. But I think growing up in the early 2000s and growing up in the early 90s it's still pretty similar. It's not the 2010s where technology and smartphones has fully taken over. When I was growing up, there was Razors and all these phones. Like, there wasn't any iPhones or any of that, until a little bit later. So, you're not hooked inside doing all this stuff. You're still going outside, going to the park, playing with your friends, riding bikes throughout the neighborhood, and just looking at magazines, and you're not on your phone all the time. And it's just crazy the nostalgia this movie gives me. I think the only other movie that has made me feel this way is Boyhood, which is one of my top favorite 15 movies of all time. Now, on to the mixed aspects of this movie. I don't think there's any negatives. I think this movie is damn near perfect, but I'm just kind of nitpicking at this point. And AJ's parents are just kind of whatever. I feel like they're just a caricature of, what strict parents are portrayed to be, how they're, just disgusted at the fact that their kid is finally growing up and going through and doing all the things that teenagers should do in order to grow up and the experiences that they need to have. The dad does do something actually pretty fucking cool. It's the last scene. I won't say anything, but he does something. He doesn't say a word. There's no words exchanged, no conversation, but there doesn't need to be, because what he does just says everything. And I thought that was actually a really fucking cool way to end the movie. And at first, I didn't really like Brooke, played by Mika Abdallah. She's the main girl. She's the one who AJ and Moose are fighting over. At first, I didn't really like her because she's kind of going back and forth between them. She is always taking pictures of AJ, calling him shitbag. And it's she calls him that name so many times. And it's okay, I guess that's kind of your way of flirting. But by the 25th or 30th time she calls AJ this name, I'm just fucking stop. What the fuck are you doing? It's so annoying. And even he tells her to stop, but she keeps doing it. But by the end of the movie, she does something for AJ that just, oh man, it gets you. It's just fuck. I knew you were kind of being a, S word earlier, but you can't not help but love her after what she does at the end. And lastly, it's just the bullies in this movie. There's two of them specifically. And, it's just another caricature that I don't really buy into. I don't think bullies have ever really been done correctly or accurately in a movie. They just doesn't feel authentic. Like I said, just another caricature. They're jocks. They're big. They definitely don't look like they're in high school or anywhere near AJ and Moose's age. And they're just unnecessarily mean. But I mean, like I said, that's just a minor, all these are just very minor nitpicks because I fucking loved this movie. So yeah, overall, guys, I mean, this movie is an absolute joy to watch. It is wonderful. It's a delightful coming-of-age story about these two teenagers figuring out who they are, everything they go through. You're going to laugh out loud in this movie. I haven't really mentioned it, but you're going to cry. And you're going to wish that you were 14 years old again, this young, going through everything for the first time, all the stuff, learning who you are and learning about what it means to no longer be a child. And at the end of the day, this movie is just so heartwarming. It's an easy 9.5 out of 10, without a doubt. It has overtaken my favorite movie of the year. It was Dune previously, and then the theater experience that I had with Deadpool and Wolverine overtook that spot just because of the packed theater and the memorable experience that I had with it being on opening night in a sold-out crowd. Snatch Shack is now my number one movie of the year, and it's probably my favorite movie since Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is saying a lot. So go watch this movie. It's streaming on Amazon Prime right now. Go right now. Do it. You will not regret it. You will come back. Hopefully you can comment, like, subscribe, whatever you want. I hope you enjoy this review. My name is Zach, and as always, I will see you on the next one.